I'm your host, Melvin Casey Large. Guys, as you know, this is the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. Now, you know, we always have interesting guests, and we never waste your time with cookie cutter questions. We talk to individuals that have been places, that have done things, that have met other people, that have contributed to the world. Now, with it being Black History Month, and you know my take on that, guys, all of you know my take on that, is that Black History Month for us is 366 days a year. But since it is designated as Black History Month, we have history on top of history today. Now, with us, we have Coach Jerry Hardaway. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Coach Jerry Hardaway, and he's going to fill you in on a lot of things. We're going to talk about various topics with coaches, Black coaches from the, obviously, from Black colleges and universities having the opportunity to go to the NFL when we're talking about Black coaches rather, getting into the NFL and college coaching, etc. But tell you a little bit about Coach Jerry Hardaway. He coached running backs and defensive secondary during a 3-year tenure at the University of California. He also was proud of joining that Cal staff. Coach spent 6 seasons under the legendary coach Eddie Robinson. Now, guys, I don't know any of us, unless you live under a rock, unless you've lived under a rock for the last 100 years, that are not familiar with the legendary coach Eddie Robinson of Grambling State University. Now, I'm going to call him Doctor. Dr. Hardaway began his collegiate coaching career at Memphis State, where he tutored tight ends, offensive tackles, and special teams. Now, since retiring from the NFL, Jerry has been an active ambassador in teaching, coaching young men and the youth, with the basic fundamentals and positions of American gridiron football. He's coached in areas like not only the USA, but around the world and other countries, such as China, Germany, Canada, Mexico, just to name a few. Now, tell me that's not history on top of history. So, guys, I know you didn't come to hear me. You've heard me babble on enough. We have with us Coach Jerry Hardaway. Coach Hardaway, good evening, sir. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I was about to look over my shoulder and see who you were talking about. But thank you very much for having me. I am excited and hope all is well on your end. The weather's treating you fine.
Well, Coach, it is. And speaking of looking over your shoulder, let me say to our viewers, I have some new ones tonight as well. We're happy about that. But let me say to my viewers, over my shoulder is Mr. Fritz Pollard, who was the first African-American head coach in the NFL. So we wanted to just bring history on top of history. But guys, tonight, Coach, as we get started, is there anything else you'd like to share with us briefly about the existing information that I shared? Because I know that we're going to talk about the coaching stints at Grambling and working with Coach Rob. I know we're going to talk about the institution as far as college coaches starting in the NFL, et cetera. And I know that you are an integral part of that. So is there anything that you'd like to share with us prior to us getting to that about the resume that we may have missed?
Well, in saying that, you said looking over your shoulder as we were on this Zoom and looking at the picture over your shoulder, Mr. Fritz Pollard. I was honored while being a scout at the Cardinals. I think in the second year of presentation of the Fritz Pollard Award, I received that award. And thanks to Mr. John Wooten, who's been a mentor of mine, as well as Mr. Bill Nunn and Charles Garcia and several other people, felt that I had worked enough in the NFL to receive the award when they start presenting it throughout the years. And I was so excited to walk up on that stage that night in Indianapolis as they were getting ready to have the college combines again in Indy. And that's where they were having the presentation that year. And I received that award, and I still have it in my possession. And every time I can have company over, I got a little gallery out. And they said, "Who is that?" That's the guy who got me the big award that a lot of people talk about.
Wow, man, that is fantastic. Now, Coach, being an old coach myself, I have had people ask me many times, who was my favorite player? So I won't even ask you that because you've had so much experience coaching. Are there one or two players that you could think of that just may jump out at you when you were thinking about your coaching experiences and all the places you've been and all the things the young men have been able to do that you have tutored? Are there one or two that may jump right out at you? And I know you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings and all of that, but let me say for you, I know that there are many, but can you just share with us maybe one or two?
As the late, and we're mourning this time of the year, Reverend Jesse Jackson would say, all, ask not, all. That's what I can say. All the young men that I have it almost brings tears to my eyes right now that had the opportunity to, as Coach Rob would say, touch gloves with. I mean, I can't just name one. If I start naming one, it'll sound like, damn, get out of the phone. They don't have it now, but the old phone directories. Should I start A and go through Z?
I got
But,
you.
there's a lot of young men, and some today I still have contact with. And I'm gonna just for this deal, I'm gonna mention one. I didn't really have to really coach him, but I recruited him, and his name is Sean Smith. Sean
Okay.
was a ball player at Grambling that he's gone through some difficult times with his health, but again, I know he looks to the heavens and he knows the words that was given. Don't ask the question why, but just keep serving to the day you die. And just then you might get the words at the gate when you get there. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done. Come on in.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, I need to back up a moment because I did not ask you where you went to high school, and so if we can talk about that a little bit. I know you have friends and homeboys and former teammates and that kind of thing. So if you'll allow me to just back up a moment, and if you can talk to us a little bit about your high school and things of that nature.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes me step up and say, well, where are you from originally?
Okay.
Born in Memphis, Tennessee. And uh, at birth, I was given to my grandmother, which is the only mother and father that I knew was my grandmother and my grandfather. So when I say my mother and my father, I'll be speaking of. But to answer that part of that question, to bring you into focus of the whole deal, I went to Carver High School there in Memphis, Tennessee for a minute, but then I had a tragedy in my life that I found. I knew who my real mother, my birth mother, my mother's daughter, uh, which was my mother. I ended up going to California. Now, so to clean that up, I went to St. Legence, St. Don Bosco in
Okay.
Richmond, California. I went to high school there and graduated. And from there, I went on to, was fortunate, coach by the name of Bob Ledbetter. A lot of people don't remember Coach Bob Ledbetter, but that's another classic name in black men who worked in the NFL, that opened doors for a lot of us in the NFL. He's gone home, but Coach Bob Ledbetter was at Southern Illinois, and he got me I had scholarships other places, but at that time, again in my family, another tragedy. As my senior year, my mama, she died, and so I went back to Memphis to bury her, and Coach Led, my uncle, were friends, and he met me and found out, you mean to tell me he got scholarships to Purdue, he got scholarships to SC, and that's another story you would really love. But Stanford and going there and Oregon and no, hell no. Charles, my uncle he was like my uncle, but he was my through birth, well, long story. But anyway, I ended up going to Southern Illinois, Carbondale. I'm a Saluki in the
Okay.
college. So that's where I went. But then
Oh,
he always talk, you're HBCU affiliated. I got a master's from Grambling.
all right. Now speaking of Grambling, as I said earlier, Coach, without being a hypocrite, I think most of us, even the ones that were not HBCU people, they know who Coach Rob is, and I was blessed to have the pleasure to have done some work with and for Coach Rob as well. Will you please just share with us a little bit? And I know people probably have asked you this question 1,000 times, but just a little bit, Coach, of what it was like to work with the great Eddie Robinson of Grambling.
I, as a young guy, when I got to Gremlin, I think I was about 27, maybe approaching 28 years old. And I was one of those guys that went to Gremlin with the idea that most men at that time and during that era, coaching was way different. If you desired to be a head coach, you had to work up under somebody like Coach Rob, you thought, or Bear Bryant, or Woody Hayes, or uh, all the guys, Bo Schemberger, any of the big biggers. So I went there and I'm thinking, yeah, man, if I can just get under Coach Rob, I'm going to get me a head coaching. That's what I want to do, be a head coach in college. So after I got there and found out that only one guy going to wear that suit on the sideline, that's when I knew. Yeah, Coach Rob, he's in control. And he was in control, I mean, in a good way, because you were able to learn not only life carrying information or development, as well as sitting there in the staff meetings and football and practice and learning how to be a coach. Mm-hmm. He was a good man that to this very day, when I hear his name or people ask me, like we're talking, respect. That's all I can say. Respect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I concur, Coach. I certainly concur. Now, and when you were there with Coach Eddie Robinson, it's as you and I were talking, I know that you, from what you shared with me, is you did something that the world needs to know about, and what the world needs to know about is how you helped to orchestrate Black college coaches being able to go as interns to get learning from the NFL, because we know what the narrative was and still try to be in 2026 is that, the Black coaches are not ready, this, that, and the third, or they don't this, that, and the third. So, I mean, that's a whole show in and of itself. However, you was a visionary even then, and you was shared with me, if you share with our audience, what transpired as far as being able to help HBCU coaches transition from being, quote, just Black college coaches to, unquote, being able to have a path to becoming coaches in the National Football League.
Well, when I went, again, the fortunate thing, I was over, as you indicated earlier, I was in charge of the running backs. I was a high school recruiting coordinator. And when we would have NFL scouts to come in, it was my responsibility to inform them of the young men that were seniors at Gremlin at the time, and give them information, character, the young man's ability to learn, the young man's desire to make it beyond college, and then give them background. So again, when the program came along to actively get us insight into the NFL, where, like I said, we went to the Chicago Bears, my thought was, wait a minute, I want to be a head coach in college, but I'd like to be in the NFL as well. So I knew then, I saw the vision and the light came on, get close to the coaches. So what I would do, I would go to the running backs. That's where I was coaching, but I was up under the running back coach, Hank Coleman, at the Bears at the time. I would go to his meetings. And then from there, Coach Neil Armstrong, who was the head coach at the Bears at the time, saw that I was going to Hank's meetings and everything. He started inviting me to the staff meetings, as along with a couple of the other coaches that were really, pushing the issue, trying to see, because that was I found that was part of the program to get them to see if we were guys that would be acceptable for them to look at to say if future hiring. So in saying that, I started going to the meetings every night for the week that we were there. I would ask Hank questions. It got so exciting that I became a coach right then. In the NFL, they made me the get back coach because I was always right there during the time when the team would come together for plays and everything. And I say, hey, man, get back, telling players to get back, so they could run the play because a lot of them would, stand around, get up close. But again, it's just a natural instinct to try to impress and learn at the same time that you are aware of what is being done. I know you're observing me, but I'm observing you too to show you that I can do just like the coach that you have already on staff. Not because I'm black or anything, but again, I want to go back to Reverend Jackson and say, I am somebody. And that's what I was trying to leave on them. Yeah. That's a long way around, but it's just tell you that, hey, I got out there and showed them that, hey, I know how to coach. I know how to tell the guy at that time, they don't do it like they do now, line up in a 3-point stance, hand down and back square, face looking straight ahead, toes pointed forward.
Technique and the whole nine, which is Coach, and I'm so happy that you're sharing that because many of us as people, and sadly I should say, people of color, is we even in 2025, we have been so indoctrinated that we don't teach or don't know. I mean, we have been so indoctrinated. Let me backtrack that because I want to be honest, but I want to make a fact of what you just said. We have not only has and I call my white people my less melanated people, Coach. So that's why you hear me say less melanated. Our less melanated people have painted this narrative that coaches of quote color unquote were not fundamentalists. We could not teach technique, and everything was just done on brute strength, etc. And as you share that to our audience, and as you share that to the world, is that you are exemplifying and explaining very simply that, as you've said, I too can coach. I think it was Langston Hughes, then it would say I too am America or something like that. But as you are explaining about the techniques that are used with the running backs, etc., and I know that you're just scratching the surface. It's important because we see me. I'm looking at my other monitor, got a lot of young people. It's important that our young people understand that all of the things that even in 2026, all of the negative things that they hear and think that they have to go someplace other than HBCUs, etc., to get the expertise and things that they need is really more of a myth than fact. So as you share that, we appreciate that. But now,
let me can I jump 1 second?
Please, please.
You got me when you. That's what I wanted earlier. Langston Hughes, Dr. Martin Luther King made a speech back in the early 60s when they were just opening the Spectrum in Philadelphia. I don't know if you heard it, but it's called, he was getting off the plane and they took him to Barrett Junior High School there in Philadelphia. They burned that school down, torn it down since then, but Barrett Junior High School, they had him there. And he said, I'm not going to be long. You know, I'm a Baptist minister and we can talk a long time. But anyway, he told the kids at that time, the speech was lost. And if you haven't heard it, you might want to find it, in the sense that some people think it might be better than the speech he made in Washington. Okay. But he closes it out with this poem that Langston Hughes wrote called Mother to Son.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, you know, that's where our young people get lost right now with the computer, with the cell phone and all of that. You know, at Gremlin as a coach, we used to have what we call down the field down there, and we go down there and you got to get dirty. You know, you had to teach how to get in a stance. Coach Rob wanted that to be known. If you're gonna play, damn it, you got to know how to line up. You know, you go by any field now in practices, high school, or even this Pop Warner League. They don't call it Pop Warner down here, they call it something else. But you don't see the 7-man sled. You don't see the sled, the dummy on the slinging deal where you had to hit it and spring it together and then come back, because it'll knock you down if these players that's playing now today. But going back to what you were saying, you know, this generation, I think, coming in, say if you're in your 40s, 30s, 20s, they were given. They didn't know what, and like I was telling a guy today, they didn't know what it meant to say, get on the bus and go straight to the back, or you stand up. They think that was a movie that was created. That was reality. They didn't know if you went down street in Memphis, as I was growing up, and got on Main Street and looked at a white girl, as you say, you better get running. But you can go on Bill Street and you could do the dance. You can do like Rufus Thomas would be. You started in the late 60s. You could do the dog. See, they don't know about that kind of dancing. They don't know about B.B. King and Bobby Bland singing the blues down there, you know.
No, sir. And Coach, and as you talk about, and I'm glad that you mentioned Langston as well, and that life for me ain't been no crystal stair with his mother. Say, I just been a climbing, honey. You know,
I just climbing. I've been going on landings that ain't got no light. Tacks in the floor, carpet back.
Right.
Can't stop. And that's what I grew up on. You know, that's what I learned. You know, and you asked on the onset, Salesian. See, that was Richmond High School. You probably heard of Coach Carter. Well,
I love Coach Carter.
Love that story. The men in the neighborhood chose me to say, you ain't gonna go out there, you know, because North Richmond was a hard place to live. You know, people want to talk about this and that, but it was a little different than Oakland, California at the time in the East Bay. You know, I worked downtown for 3 weeks to make $29.95 because I wanted to get a black leather jacket, and that's what you had to have to go to the Panther Party meeting. And I came home. My mama said, "Hell, boy, where you get the jacket? How you get the money? We ain't got nothing to eat." And Mr. Raw down the street said, "Hell, you ain't gonna be no." Not that he was against progression of the era of change, but he said, "Hell no, you ain't gonna be no Panther. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be educated." And I can't put the words that he put out there, but it just rhymes with SOB. You're gonna go up there to Salesian, and Salesians, believe it or not, was right behind Richmond High School.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk to young men now about being bullies. That ain't nothing new. The older guys, a couple years ahead of me in high school, saw me walking past right by. Oh, like Coach Rob said at first, the crowd's a sissy. Well, when I walked by, hell, I couldn't cry. I had to be tough like the other guys.
Yes, sir.
But I was getting the education. I was going places that they wasn't going until they found out. Oh, hell no.
Yes,
He's
sir.
up there, but I came home and went to the Baptist church, and I came in there and, Mom, Father Al want me to become a priest. Well, when I got up off the floor, I was filled with the Holy Ghost and the Spirit was among me. She said, hell no, he ain't gonna be no damn priest. Nothing against Catholics. My wife is Catholic, But I grew up Baptist,
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, my wife is Methodist, and so I told her that we were going to worship together.
Yeah.
And she was staunch about being a Methodist. So I told her I don't have a problem. We all say it's one God. So
Right.
I grew up as a Baptist, but I wound up being Methodist.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
in saying that, when you look to the heavens, you go back to roots. And what they do, people fail to hear what Kuta Kinte said when he held the baby up. Behold, something greater than thyself.
Yes.
Methodist, Catholic, Episcopalian, or whatever. It's something greater than thyself. Islam,
Absolutely.
I listened to Mr. Farrakhan the other day. Again, he stepped out. Not that I'm Islamic or whatever. No. It's something greater than thyself. Behold.
Absolutely. And may I just say this quickly, as you were talking about the Panthers, and when I talk about us, and I was included. So let me speak to myself first as I speak with you. It was a while before I did more research that I even knew the Panthers. They were educated men, but we were so brainwashed to think that because they were supposed to be
violent, against
yeah,
violent, want to be this and all of that. That wasn't the case.
Yeah. And we were never told or instructed because the older people didn't even know that these were college boys. So
they started out getting lunches and meals for
yes,
kids
sir.
in the community.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as we move forward with this process, and by the way, you got hearts and thumbs going up everywhere, and I'm so happy about that. But as we move forward in this process, with you being an educator, sadly, men of color, for some reason, and correct me if you've seen different, but sadly, men of color, and I've been a lot of places, I've worked a lot of places, we seem to have too many, let me put it this way, for me, far too many of us seem to think that education is somehow for weak men or for that kind of thing. And I've heard it a lot of times subtly. I've heard it flat out. I've heard it say, well, it's not as long as you work hard and, and I know all these educated fools. So I have I guess what I'm saying, it bothers me, Brother Hardaway, when I talk to the Brother Hardaways of the world and I hear the strength, the power, the understanding, the academic astuteness that you have. And I can talk to another brother tomorrow and it'll be just the opposite. And that bothers me. And I see a lot of that. I've lived in LA. I worked for the great Dr. George McKenna of the George McKenna story. Most people have heard of Joe Clark and Lean on Me. Well, we had a movie, not we, him. I only worked for him in 1986. Matter of fact, it's still on Netflix. And Denzel Washington is playing the part of my former mentor and boss, George McKenna. And it now has been changed to Heart Lessons because of some licensing issue or something. And Denzel is on the cover. I've lived in, as I said, I've lived in LA. I've worked in Houston, Texas. I've worked in Michigan. I've worked in Ohio. I've worked in Louisiana, etc. And sadly for me, that's why I'm saying I have been too many places where I have seen men that look like you and I that are negative toward education when it comes, and that bothers me. So I kind of laughed when you said that your uncle was saying, "Oh hell no, you ain't gonna be no Panther. You gonna get your education." I thought that was real cool, and I continue to think that's real cool. What message would you give to our younger people and to our young men that are above 18 as far as the importance of education?
Well, education has always been a major factor in my life. My great grandmother is enshrined there, name wise, in the state of Arkansas and Little Rock, as being one of the first Black educators in the state of Arkansas.
Right.
My thing in talking to the youth is that education is the key. I was told everything can, I don't want to make it sound like a joke, but everything was a joke given to me to make me know how important education is. Like reading
Yes.
is the key. I was told reading is the key. When I first went to school, my first day in going to school as a first grader, my mother gave me the key to the house. I never had the key to the house. Now, I don't want you to think my life is everything is a joke, but a joke makes life reality.
Yes,
She
sir.
gave me the key. I get to school. I knew how to count. You know, I could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I could read the, this. But I knew that something was going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if you can picture this, 3 rows. If you sit in the middle row, you got 1, 2, 3. You sit in 2, and you're 3 this way. That's 9. But in that middle, you can see everything. You got vision. I'm sitting there, and the teacher walks in, and she goes up to the board, and she takes the chalk, and she writes up there, "All right, young people, attention." She scratches on the board with the chalk, M-R-S, bam, G-O-S-T. What does that say? All the people looking around, nobody know. Said, Mrs. I said, G-O-S-S. I said, T, but G-O-S-S, she wrote. She said, my name is Mrs. Goss. You're going to learn that. Then she put something else up there, and she slapped it, and she said, and you're going to learn to read, because reading is the key. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Excuse me. I've been to Paris. I can say a little French too, but shit. I
No,
rested
you
my
good,
pocket.
Coach. You
I
good.
rested my pocket and I pulled out the key. I said, Miss Goss, I know that. I got the key. She looked at me and said, what? She told the girl in the 3rd row front, said, get up. You go back there and sit in his seat. He's going to sit in yours.
Okay.
She said, you pretty smart. She said,
Okay.
but that ain't the key I'm talking about. You're going to learn how to say, and Sally met Puff, and Puff has Puff, and this and this and this. But I had the key. I thought reading that was the key. Long
Right.
story. But anyway,
But that's a funny story.
it says, in the sense of way we're talking, never look, and I heard this last night, and a great man again said, never, and this is what I try to live by in the coaching when I was there, and even in the scouting and as I live today. and it came over last night like it just said, "Hello, are you still listening?" Never look or talk down to anyone unless you are reaching down to help a fella up.
Absolutely.
You know who gave that?
Who's that, Coach?
That was Dr. Jesse Jackson. And I'm saying, what? Well, that's what Coach Rob had been saying all along, again, in coaching. That's what Dennis Green has said in coaching to me, even as a scout. When you go out, Jerry, Larry Fitzgerald, he might not be as great as this guy over there or that guy, but when you reach down and get ready to really evaluate him, what does he bring to the central location here that we have here at the Cardinals at that time? You asked earlier players, and I'm going back retroactive in that conversation. Anquan Bolton. You know, today, Anquan Bolton, as they call him, cute, they left him. Said he don't have the speed. He ain't. But what does he bring? That's to the nucleus, and that's what. When you asked the question, I just stepped out there. I wasn't gonna mention them names, but that's what Anquan. Now, someday they're gonna be talking about Anquan as a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
Someday they're gonna talk about Larry Fitzgerald as a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
Someday they're gonna talk about Andre Wadsworth, how he had the potential to be a superstar had he not got injured. But then there's only a few people, and I'm hoping that I can be still vertical on this earth to tell why and how he got injured to get pushed behind at the Cardinals. Not that, the legacy or anything. And, I look back, what can I say? I got to keep a good smile because you never know. The Cardinals might say, "Jerry, come out, and we just want you to come because you were good when you were here."
Yeah. Now, Coach, speaking of the Cardinals, I was remiss because I did not ask how many years did you work in the NFL and which teams?
It's on the books. I think 23 years with the Cardinals, and then 1995, 1 year with the Carolina Panthers. I went there the inaugural season. Again, that goes back to part of what we're saying, learning in the NFL. I felt at that time, I guess I'd been the Cardinals almost 17, 18 years, and I'd never been exposed to another scouting system firsthand. And so we were having a few issues at the Cardinals at the time. I went through maybe 7 or 8 coaches at the Cardinals, but this one particular coach, I said, okay, maybe I need to go learn somewhere else. So that year, 95, I got the opportunity to go and study another system, and that was at the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that's great. Well, Coach, before I let you go, I didn't want to have you here this long, but before I have to ask this question.
I'm sorry I got you off the subject and then come back because again,
Coach, actually, I'm going to disagree because you didn't get us off the subject. We stayed on the subject. And I love the way you shared it and you mixed it because it's still the same thing. And when I ask about, what would you say to the young people is that they need to hear the real views. A lot of times we kind of put things in a box and the kids don't get to hear the real view. So and I'm telling you, the hearts and thumbs are going up because they heard, excuse me, the different pieces of how it's put together. And that's what they often do not get. So no, sir, you didn't get
Well,
off the
it's
subject.
like again, I like being the OG. Like a lot of young people tell me they call me uncle, but I look
Okay.
back, it's almost like the Richard Pryor eras. He had his best friend Tootlam with him. He said, you don't get old by being no fool, and you never heard no young wise man. So again, the OG,
Absolutely.
if you spend time out there in the atmosphere, a lot of people ask me, well, what was it you're working? I tell them different stories. Say, I got an opportunity to see a lot of things, a lot of people. One of my first jobs, again, was working a James Brown concert at the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum. I might have been 13 years old at that time. And we were going to get $5 for working the concert, and we were going to get a chance to shake James Brown's hand. And
Yes,
the
sir.
job description was we help people get to the seat, and when the lights go down, you run to the stage. Well, there was a guy that really I felt it was taking advantage of me. He was telling me, because he knew my uncle again who got me out there, you can do this and you do that. Well, I'm 13, I got frustrated. I went outside. And it might have been Merzio Parker, or it could have been one of, I got the book here. Anyway, Fred Whitman, uh, uh, Fred, I can't think of his first name. Anyway, he was out there smoking a cigarette. And he said, young man, what's wrong with you? I said, man, that he bothered me. He said, boy, wait a minute. He said, I've been working for James Brown for I don't know how long, damn it. And I don't know what James, the whole thing was, I don't know what James Brown be singing half the time, but I know he paying. So long as he paying, hell, I'm going to keep on playing. So go on back in there and just do what you, man, and you're going to get paid. And don't worry about it. And man, that carried me on. Mr. Hitman Fred Wesley, that's it.
Okay.
That's what carried me through life and working. And to the young people, that's what I try to carry over. And when I talk to them, don't worry about the landscape of everything that come in your way to try to deter you from going where you want to go. Just keep progressing like Langston Hughes and mother to son. It could be father to son, father to daughter, or uncle to nephew. Keep going. Dr. King closes that speech out. If you can't run, can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. By all means, get there.
Absolutely.
That's what
Coach,
life is.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's what life is. You're going to see obstacles in the road, and I've seen them. Again, I know we're supposed to have been talking about the time and at Grambling. Even at Grambling, I saw obstacles in the road, but then if I'd have stopped, I wouldn't have got the chance to sit back, even to talk to you and tell you, yeah, I worked up under 3 men that made major contributions to the sport of football, which we love.
Yes, sir.
My first college job was under a man named, he's gone on now, but his name was Richard Williamson. He caught Joe Namath's first touchdown pass he threw at Alabama. He was a noted receiver coach in the NFL. Eddie Robinson, which leave nothing, no discussion. Everybody know. And
Yeah.
then at the University of California, Joe Cap, the only man in his position at quarterback to factor in the three major bowls at that time of this era. They don't count one of them now so much because the NFL is so powerful. But the 3 major vineyards at that time in the 60s?
I do not.
One, he took the University of California, Berkeley, to the Rose Bowl. That was the biggest bowl at the time in that era. One of the biggest. 2, he took the BC Lions to the Grey Cup. Third, the Minnesota Vikings to the Super Bowl. You ain't got nobody, ain't no other quarterback. You know, they talk about Montana, they talk about all these, you know, and I just saw Doug on the deal, you know, and Williams and all these and the handwriting, but ain't nobody else can speak that.
Say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Coach, speaking of that, two final questions. We know there's been so much talk about 10 NFL head coaching job openings, and not one was filled by anyone that looked like you and me. Do you have an opinion on that as to why that may have occurred?
I look at it like this here. The NFL itself goes back to Pharaoh. What did Pharaoh send out in front of at wartime and when they were taking over stuff? What was out in front? He had what they call a shield, right? Men out there. All right. So the NFL is a shield, if you can imagine that. And the shield is protecting 10 letters. 6 of those letters you see, because they're on the side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, growing up, they always told you, said, get that pen out of your left hand, put it in your right. So what's on the right side of that shield? NFC. You see it. On the left, ALC.
Okay.
I don't want to mess up your show, but again,
no, man, you right on point.
We living in a society in the NFC. You know, at one time, that man behind you, you know, there's another guy invented the huddle. I can't think of his name right now, but he was quarterbacking too. But they ain't telling you. It might have been him. But then on the other side, the ALC, we jumped up and we started having a lot of people of color in there. Okay, so the shield is going, but hidden up under that shield that you don't see is M and M, and in that is another M. And I told you, you know, that NFL is protecting
the
10
shield.
letters. It's protecting 10 letters now. You done seen 6 of them over there, and now it's 9 in there. This is the 10 I got to get you. So the 10, 9 is 3 4 you don't see. You done seen 6 of them, but 4 you haven't seen.
Okay.
You see them, but you don't see them.
I got you.
Because you know, like I told you, I'm related to Stevie Wonder, but I did meet Ray Charles too. You see M and M, media and marketing. And that other one in there is money. And
so you got the 3 M's.
Yeah.
4. Uh-huh.
But now
media, money, marketing, and what's the 4th one?
Media, money. Money is in the middle. He hidden up in there. But what's over the top is an O.
Okay.
That O stand for owners.
I got you.
So now to answer your question.
Yes, sir.
We're going to keep that M and M. We got to keep that marking because we're going to get that. We want that other M that's hidden up under there to keep coming in.
Okay. Well, final question, Coach. I promise I'm going to let you go after this one. And this one, I'm biased. And this question is about the NFL Hall of Fame. Now, Gary Big Hands Johnson, who played at Grambling, is not only a dear, and God rest his soul, is not only a dear friend and a cousin. I always thought throughout his career, because he didn't play, quote, in the major market, that he was deemed not worthy for the Hall of Fame. But when I watched his games, even though being a dear friend, and even though being a relative, I watched the games that he played, And I recall the Senior Bowl where he was the MVP with Randy White and all of these guys. I recall the East-West Shrine Bowl where he again was the defensive MVP with all of these so-called big-time players. I recall him being drafted number 8 in the entire NFL, being 4-time All-Pro and things of that nature. 1979 NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Why, in your opinion, and you worked in the NFL all these years, do you think at this point that he don't even get a mention as being even a potential Hall of Famer?
And again, I'm gonna throw another name out there before I close out that question. Tell me why Dallas Cowboy Cornell Green is not
wow.
Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So again, I have to go back to my religious deal and say it is not mine to question why. I just got to serve him to the day I die, and then just maybe then it'll be answered. I don't know why. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Big Hands is not there. I want to know why Cornell is not there.
It's not there. Okay.
But again, go back to the hidden entity in the behind the shield: media, marketing, and money.
Okay. I hear you.
If you can't sell it, baby, then, like Coach Rob said, hell, you just a fine American. Oh man, I'm just happy to have that opportunity.
Well, listen, it's certainly been our pleasure, and I'm telling you, man, the hearts and the smiley faces and the thumbs have been going up all night, man. And I'll be honest, I'm just tickled to know that, and I'm just really pleased to have you, and happy that you are here on the show because you have so much knowledge and you have so much information. And I know a lot of times being in the position that you're in and having been where you've been, you have to be a little careful sometimes with your answers because you never know who's watching. But believe me, you gave us an enriching, very powerful show because you were very, very informative and very educational. And we just happy that you thought enough of us to come on and share with us on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show, my brother. And we appreciate.
I appreciate you and the opportunity, and being that it is the month of joy where we get a chance. And I want to say it this way, and not being, I don't want to be too far out, being the only coach that's living that can actually say, I coached under Eddie Robertson for 6 seasons. 6 seasons I was there. And when the person asks, oh, you ever heard or do you know Coach Robertson? Hello.
Hell, Jerry.
Hell, Jerry, you just too damn young to be trying to get out here. You know, Coach Rob saw what he had because we were getting them players at the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was special.
He was special.
Coach Hardaway allowed me to say, I was a huge fan. I always wanted to play at Grambling. I think I was telling you that earlier. But I just couldn't get over 6 foot tall. But the way God would have it, though, I wound up going to Mississippi Valley. I don't know too many freshmen that have ever started in the SWAC. And one of the best games I had was against Grambling and Jackson State and Alcorn, the big three.
Now, what year did you tell me that you finished?
1971.
71, okay.
Yes, sir. 1971. I went to Valley, started, and I went there as a nose tackle, and I have to give Coach Weatherby his credit. Coach, he said, well, my nickname is Chief. He said, well, Chief, he said, man, he said, you just too tough of a ball player. I can't have you sitting on the line. He said, you think you can play offense? I said, Coach, I play football. I had never played offense, as God is my witness. I had never played offense in my life other than I was a frustrated fullback because I was a big guy. I wanted to be a running back, but they wouldn't let me. They made me be a lineman. So I went to Valley. I transitioned to an offensive guard during tour day, and the rest is history. Started from the very first game and became second team all SWAC there as an offense as a freshman. The next year, first team preseason. So Coach Rob, I always wanted to play for him. However, I got the opportunity to not only come to Grambling and to help do some looking at some partial scouting sometimes. I mentioned to you about Dunny Little and some other guys, but I was just, I as you know, I didn't work on campus with you guys, but I was always out there. So just let me say that it's a pleasure knowing you, and it's a pleasure knowing that you were there and that you were at Grambling, because I saw so many great athletes at Grambling and so many great athletes there, and I was again going to Mississippi Valley. Spoke to me because I was able to not only compete against Grambling, against Alcorn, against Jackson State, whatever. It solidified who I believed I was. I just wasn't over 6 foot tall.
Hell, damn it, he just too short. One day we'll have another conversation. I'll tell you I don't know if we talked about it, but I'll tell you my experience of being on the sideline at Grambling game that we had with Mississippi Valley during the Jerry Rice and Totten's era.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Listen, and as I get off, I got to tell you this story. And God knows Big Hand's asleep now. And John Mendenhall, too. But John Mendenhall, Coach, did not want to believe I was a freshman. He did not. His exact words, and I hate the N-word. N-word? Where you from? You wasn't at Valley last year. I said, man, I was in high school. He said, GD well, ain't no high school. Just came out here and whoop.
Come out here and play like this here. Yeah. But hell,
man, I cherish that because, as I said, I was so impressed and wanted to play for Grambling. It's the best game I ever had, brother. And I think, throughout the time. And let me say, too, are there any parting words you like to leave us with, Coach?
Just be happy and know that tomorrow will come. Just keep a smile. Greet everybody that you meet with a smile, for you know not who you're passing. Thank
you so much for that. So, guys, there you have it. This has been the Nobody Asked Me Guys show with your host, Melvin Casey Lars. And guys, I know from your hearts and for your thumbs that you really enjoyed Coach Jerry Hardaway. So, guys, have a great and blessed night. Hey, tell your friends about our show. Don't forget, like and subscribe.